Welcome back to the cryptowrld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, this new bearish divergence officially confirms for the price of Bitcoin, as Bitcoin is now starting to reject from this important Fibonacci area of resistance. So I'll be talking about that in just a moment, alongside my exact Bitcoin trading strategy, alongside the price of Solana, which is getting extremely close to breaking below this important Fibonacci level, while the price of Chainlink is continuing to reject from this key Fibonacci area of resistance. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, just before we take a look at the Bitcoin and crypto charts today, we need to take a look at the Bitcoin news today, because just yesterday on Friday, we actually saw a very large inflow into specifically the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF just on Friday. So as we can see here, we saw an inflow of over $674 million US, almost $700 million coming into just the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF just in one trading day. And so obviously this means that we're continuing to see BlackRock buy more and more Bitcoin, because in case you're new to all of this, essentially these inflows go to BlackRock, and then BlackRock have to use those funds in order to buy Bitcoin to back the ETF. So this is some extra demand for the price of Bitcoin, which can help with the price in the short term. But with that being said, if we're taking a look at the 4-day Bitcoin price chart, obviously right now the super trend indicator is still sitting in the red, so nothing's really changed over the last one day. And if we're taking a look at the weekly Bitcoin chart, technically speaking, we still have this bearish divergence to watch out for on the weekly time frame, so not a lot has changed over the last one day on this chart. And if we're taking a look at this weekly Bitcoin chart, of course, as I've been saying recently here on the channel, we're moving closer towards a bullish crossover, currently picking up some more bullish momentum potentially in the coming weeks here if we see this bullish crossover, which obviously we're moving towards. And if we're looking at the last couple of times, we've seen basically the same signal that we're seeing right now in the weekly Bitcoin MACD. The last couple of times this has happened, we were already in the recovery stage for Bitcoin out of these pullbacks here, and getting ready to see more bullish momentum in the coming weeks or months. And so just keep that in mind. Overall, we're still looking pretty good, at least based on this chart right here. But if we're taking a look at this 3-day Bitcoin price chart, for now, the price of Bitcoin is perfectly struggling at this exact area of resistance I've been talking about here on the channel, sitting in between around 96,000 to 98,000. And that's mainly based on this volume profile indicator showing a lot of traded volume, in other words, a lot of resistance around there. But as we can see in the volume profile indicator, after we potentially break out above 98,000, the volume profile actually drops off a lot. In other words, we don't really have a lot of resistance further towards the upside once we can first break out above 98,000. So that is the key level that we need to break out above, around 97 to 98k, give or take. And once we can get above that level, it's very likely, never a guarantee, but very likely will continue a bullish relief towards all-time highs. And technically speaking, on the daily Bitcoin price chart, this bullish divergence is still currently active. It is still affecting the price here, as we can see over the last couple of weeks, perfectly playing out the bullish divergence. But if we're looking at the daily Bitcoin RSI, it's basically still sitting very close to overbought territories. In other words, we don't really have a lot of room towards the upside, at least in the immediate short term here. And so obviously that was the case roughly 1 week ago right here, and then we did see a bit of a slowdown, just a slight little cool off, mostly choppy sideways price action for close to a week, give or take. And then of course we saw another little pump here, but because we didn't really see a massive reset over the last 1 week, only just a bit of sideways price action, of course we had limited room towards the upside for that next bullish move. And so at least for now, that is still the situation. Once again, still very close to overbought, telling us we're due to see a continued short-term cool off. So either a bit more choppy sideways price action, or perhaps a slight pullback in the coming days or over the next week, give or take, as a likely scenario, just in order to reset the RSI. And that would actually be a good thing for the price of Bitcoin in terms of the bullish trend here, because that can reset the RSI, giving us more room towards the upside later on. And if we're taking a look at this daily Bitcoin price chart, obviously over the last couple of days, we have broken out above this golden pocket area of resistance, sitting in between around 94,500 to 95,500 approximately, but this here is based on the logarithmic settings. And if we're actually just adjusting the settings of the Fibonacci retracement tool here to take a look at the linear settings, we have this golden pocket area of resistance sitting in between around 96,000 to almost 98,000, around 97,500. And for now, we are finding resistance around there. And so obviously this golden pocket on the linear settings aligns much better with this resistance based on the volume profile indicator, which I've already been talking about here on the 3-day Bitcoin price chart. So once again, most of the resistance is honestly at roughly 97,000, and ideally we need to see a breakout above 98,000 to finally clear this resistance. And once we can finally do that, once we can see a breakout above 98,000 with candle closes actually confirming that and ideally flipping that into new support, then in that situation we could also find a small amount of resistance at close to 102,000 based on this Fibonacci level on the linear settings. But honestly, the next significant point, the next significant price target on the price chart would be sitting at approximately 106 to 107,000 based on pretty much the all-time high based on the candle closes. And then of course we have the all-time high at close to 110,000. And so in other words, once we finally see a confirmed breakout above this resistance, it's extremely likely we'll continue a recovery towards all-time highs. But in the meantime, once again, we're still running into this resistance, and here on the 3-day time frame, still running into this resistance and still very close to overbought territories on the daily RSI. And not only that, of course, if we're zooming into the 6-hour time frame, we have a new bearish divergence, which is now officially confirmed. And so we can clearly see that we've confirmed higher highs in the price of Bitcoin in the candle closes, and we've now confirmed lower highs in the 6-hour Bitcoin RSI, which is of course a bearish divergence, telling us we're extremely likely going to see either a little bit more of a pullback like this, or maybe just a bit of choppy sideways price action. So like I said earlier on this daily time frame, once again, just a bit of a short-term cool off, not necessarily a massive crash or anything, but cooling off after all of this bullish price action, which can potentially give us more room towards the upside later on. And if we're taking a look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, in the immediate short term, we don't really have a lot of liquidity immediately that's close to the price of Bitcoin, but the next significant area of liquidity that is relatively close is at approximately 100,000. And so with all of that being said, what is my exact Bitcoin trading strategy? And for now, honestly, my trading strategy has not changed over the last one day. So of course, if you've been watching my videos over the last couple of weeks or so, you'll know that I've been entering this long position at roughly 88,000 at that previous breakout, which I shared here on the channel very transparently back then. And since then, I've remained in this long position this entire time. But of course, back here approximately, I did slightly reduce the size of the trade, just take some profits out of the long position around these previous highs. But for now, I'm still long on the price of Bitcoin with my stop loss sitting in profits above my entry. And then potentially at key points of resistance, like potentially around here or maybe around here, I will take some more profits out of this long position, just slightly reducing the size of the trade, not necessarily closing the whole trade, but just slightly taking some profits out of the long position at those key points of resistance. And as I usually do, as the trade moves further and further into profits, I will also slowly adjust this stop loss further towards the upside to basically secure more and more profits, even in the worst case scenario. And one of the good things about a long position right now, especially over on 2bit, but really on a lot of these crypto exchanges, the Bitcoin funding rates in particular are currently negative across a lot of the crypto market here. And so this tells us that there's currently a high demand to short Bitcoin, and not many people really interested in longing Bitcoin at the current prices, because in other words, what the negative funding rates mean, in case you're new to all of this, is the short positions are having to pay the long positions these funding fees. When the funding rates are negative, that's what that means. Whereas if they're positive, the long positions are having to pay the short positions. And so even if the price of Bitcoin just trades sideways in the coming days, I will still make a small amount of profits from this Bitcoin long position in the form of funding fees getting paid into my account, usually every 8 hours. And so of course, that's another benefit of this long position for now, this trading strategy that I've been sharing very transparently here on the channel. And also a negative funding rate right here, negative funding rates across the market is one of the key indicators of a possible short squeeze. It's never a guarantee, but basically the further the negative the funding rates go, the more likely a short squeeze will happen. But for now, once again, with that bearish divergence technically active on the 6-hour time frame, at the same time as the price running into significant resistance and of course close to overbought on the daily time frame, do expect a bit of a cool off in the coming days as a very likely scenario for Bitcoin. And then perhaps later on, we could possibly see another short squeeze, especially if funding rates remain negative. And so that is what I'm expecting in the shorter term for Bitcoin and the slightly mid to longer term. And that is my exact trading strategy, sharing with you very transparently here on the channel. And if you want to take these trades for yourself, like what I'm doing to easily profit in the crypto market, then of course you have to be set up ready to go on a crypto exchange. And personally, I'm taking this trade right here over on 2bit. So I'll make sure to leave a link to 2bit below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here where you can claim some massive trading bonuses, like for example, up to $50,000 in trading rewards. But if you're not one of these larger traders here, you can also get a $30 sign up bonus and also a 20% deposit rebate up to a max of 200 USDT. So for example, if you deposit $1,000, you get a $200 bonus, but only if you use that link. And on top of that, in case you're wondering, 2bit is a no KYC exchange, which means you can access it from basically any country in the world without needing any KYC. But as always, check your local regulations when it comes to trading crypto. And for whatever reason, if you don't want 2bit as an exchange, there's also BTNX as another exchange out there that I also trade on. So I will also make sure to leave a link to BTNX below this video. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this sign up page right here where you can also claim some massive bonuses that are only available using that link. Like for example, the same thing over here. If you deposit $1,000, you get a $200 bonus, or if you deposit just $100, you get a $20 bonus into your account. And for the larger traders out there, you can also get up to $35,000 in trading rewards over here, and also other prizes, which you can also see using the link below this video. So if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, you might as well check all of this out. Once again, the first and second link below this video. And in case you're wondering, BTNX is also a no KYC exchange. But with that being said, taking a look at Ethereum on the weekly time frame, and over the last one day, not a lot has changed on this weekly Ethereum price chart. For now, technically, we're still within the larger bearish trend, also known as a bear market. But of course, just in the short term here, we are currently playing out a bullish relief, a major bounce from this significant area of support, which is still sitting in between around 1.4K to 1550. And if we're taking a look at the daily Ethereum price chart, for now, the price of ETH is holding above this key Fibonacci level in the short term, which is sitting at just underneath 1.8K. And so for now, that is still the level of support to pay attention to in the short term. Once again, around 1790 to 1.8K. But of course, for now, we're lacking bullish momentum in the shorter term. So we're still playing out the bullish relief. But as I always say, expect similar price action to what Bitcoin is doing. So if Bitcoin is playing out a bit of a cool off and struggling around key resistance, expect something similar for Ethereum. Even though we might not necessarily be at significant resistance, Bitcoin, of course, influences the price of ETH along with the rest of the crypto market. And so honestly, just pay attention to what I said for Bitcoin earlier in the video to figure out what is most likely going to happen for Ethereum moving forward. So essentially a bit more of a short-term struggle, a lack of momentum for now, but possibly a further bullish relief if we can see the breakout for Bitcoin. If Bitcoin breaks out above 98,000 with confirmation, that can help Ethereum and a lot of the crypto market. And the next significant resistance for Ethereum is at around 2.1K. And with that being said, taking a look at the price of Solana on the 3-day time frame, and technically speaking, despite the current short-term cool off, this bullish divergence on the 3-day Solana chart is still currently active for now, which means continue to expect either a bit more of a bullish relief or maybe a bit of choppy sideways price action as the most likely outcomes here for a bullish divergence. And considering this is on the 3-day time frame, this will likely play out over a period of weeks. And if we're taking a look at the daily Solana price chart, for now, we can clearly see that the price in the shorter term is struggling to hold above this Fibonacci level based on previous Fibonacci resistance flipping into new support. So temporarily, this has been acting as support here, and that was sitting at around $146 to $147. But like I just said, we're getting very close to possibly losing that support. And if we were to do that, if we were to see a confirmed break with candle closes confirming below around 146, in that situation, of course, in the immediate short term, that would be a bit of a bearish signal pointing towards perhaps a drop down towards, let's just say, 135 to 136 based on previous resistance here flipping into new support. And then below that level, below 135 to 136, the next support I'll be watching is sitting at approximately $125. But once again, expect similar price action for Solana as what I said for Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin's going to struggle a little bit in the short term, and then maybe, let's just say in a week from now, see a bit more bullish price action, we'll likely see something similar for Solana. And of course, these other levels of support and resistance have not changed over the last 1 day for Solana. So getting straight into the price of XRP on the 3-day time frame, and technically speaking, this large bearish divergence is still impacting the price even right now. Simply, we're seeing a lack in bullish momentum for now in the price of XRP, as I've been saying for months now on the channel since much higher prices. I warned about this happening all the way back here. And so for now, not a lot has changed on this XRP chart over the last 1 day. And if we're taking a look at this daily XRP chart, once again, for now, we're still somewhat in a short-term bullish relief, but in the immediate short term, seeing a bit of a struggle, just like Bitcoin once again. But overall, we're still within a descending parallel channel, which is effectively a bearish trend, forming lower highs and lower lows. And as for short-term support and resistance to watch out for, we do have some short-term support we're running into right now as of recording this video, and that's sitting at around $2.15 to $2.17 approximately. But if we break that level, the next support I'll be watching is at around $2.05 and really close to $2. So just above $2, we have a lot of support around there. And then below that, honestly, we don't really have a lot of support until around $1.95 and these much lower prices. So we need to ideally hold above $2 and these other levels in order to avoid a potential further drop here. And as for resistance to watch out for, we do have some resistance at around $2.35 and significant resistance in between $2.45 to $2.50. And if we're taking a look at the price of Chainlink on the daily time frame, for now, Chainlink is still struggling and rejecting from this massive area of resistance based on the previous golden pocket area of support, which flipped into significant resistance during March, during the end of March, as we could see. And right now, it is still acting as very strong resistance. The price is perfectly respecting this area, as we could see the moment we entered into that price range. That's exactly where the price started to reject from multiple times over the last 1 week, as expected. But as I've been saying recently here on the channel, technically this bullish divergence is still actively playing out. So we're trying to play out the bullish divergence while the price is running into key resistance. But as I've also been saying recently here on the channel, if we were to see, let's just say, a further rejection down towards around $12.50 to $13 around here, and then let's just say if we bounce somewhere around there, come back up towards the golden pocket and then break out above $15.50, in that situation, we have a possible inverse head and shoulders pattern, which would of course be a massive bullish price pattern for Chainlink, setting up a massive bullish price target beyond $20 per Chainlink if we first form the right shoulder like this and then confirm a breakout. And so I'm just pointing that out to tell you that even if we see a little bit more of a pullback here, for as long as we hold above around $12.50 to $13, it's not necessarily all bad news. But that is still the situation. Once again, not a lot has changed over the last 1 day. But once again, if you want to trade any of these moves in the price of any crypto, like what I'm doing right now to easily profit in the crypto market, then make sure to check out those links below this video to those exchanges if you want to claim those massive bonuses that are only available using those links. And if you want to actually know how you can trade crypto to profit easily like what I'm doing right here, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.